met a man.
Lucky you.
I got on the Lewis and he said, sorry, do you have €1? And I says to him, you don't need to ask me for money to talk to me, just talk to me. And he says, will ya fuck off? Right, anyways, we're going steady now. Thanks very much. Yeah, it's so exciting to come to the city though, you know. Like, I got so excited, guys, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I ran down and I got a wax. You know, right? That's what you do, isn't it? Right? You know, and she said to me, I was in the chair, and she said, do you want a Hollywood or a Brazilian? And I says, I'm going to Dublin. I'll have the Spire. You know? You're probably all wondering why I'm wearing my underwear on stage. Somebody has to see it. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so that's it. So I'm Fiona. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I have a neurological problem, so I have this tiny little shake, right? So I'm not nervous, I'm just fucked. Right? What happened was I had a little bit of a stroke, right, a few years ago. I know, right? It was fucking brilliant, so it was. Absolutely brilliant it was, right? I'm not going to go into it because it was just too much fun, you know? And like the thing about it is, like, it left me with this little shake, you know, but I'm really, really good in bed. I'm like a human vibrator. I don't even own a vibrator. I just go home, sit down, and just have a great time. You know? But like the thing about it is, when I had the stroke, like it was good, you know, and all. And like, has anybody here ever had? Well, there's only a few men here, isn't there? Have you ever had sex with a woman who's had a stroke? No. Ah, you're not living. I'm on OnlyFans. Hot Stroke Girl 1095. Because it turned out there was 1,094 other hot women who had a stroke. You know? But like, I don't tell stroke jokes anymore because it always divides the room. Because half the room thinks that it feels really, really funny, and the other half of the room feels nothing. You know? So that's where I parked it at there. But obviously we're here for the old autism people, you know. I mean, I'm obviously autistic, right? It's fucking dripping off me. I'm after leaving autism all over the bar, in the car park. I'm so sorry, it's not my fault. I'm not what you call a smart autistic, I'm fucking thick. Right? Give me a whoop if you're just thick as a brick. It's a special night, isn't it? You know? But I'm so stupid. Like when my psychiatrist said to me, Fiona, because it was an adult diagnosis, I'm an adult. You know, he said, Fiona, right? My psychiatrist said, Fiona, and I said, yeah, that's me. You know, I do have to check. You know? But he said, you're autistic. And I said, right. And I thought about it for a minute, and I said, do I need to ring every fella that I've ever had sex with? You know, and I was thinking, I was like the mailman, the bin man, you know. I slept with my bin man. It happens when you're middle-aged, doesn't it? Absolutely, she says, you know. Anyways, I don't have his number and he's on a different route now, so, you know, but yeah, so that's it. I have to write it all down because I have a fucking stroke, right? You know, I can't remember anything, but also I can't remember cleaning and shit like that. You know, or birthdays and presents and all that kind of thing. You know, it's very selective. You know, but the thing about it is, I am a literal autistic. Everything is literal to me. Like, you know, my mother said to me, Fiona, when you wake up in the morning, turn to the person beside you and give them a big hug and a kiss and say, I love you, good morning. And I'm fucking banned off all transatlantic flights. And some trains. and the Lewis line. You know, I think I have narcolepsy as well. You know, but anyways, give me a whoop if you have children. Right? They're nearly done, right? For summer, right? Are you just be delighted, are you? right? Because the last time the big holidays were over, you know, we all woke up at 5 to 9. 5 to 5, have you done that? Yeah, 5 to 5. Oh, isn't it stressful? Like, you're just like, get out of that fucking bed, you little fucking, I hate you, I didn't want to have you, you know? Get out, get up, lunch, uniform, out to the car, your man is dragging his fucking bag and all the stones, you know, that you paid for. Get into the fucking car, you know? And I get to school, right? I got out, I swear to God, I got out of the gates, and all the mothers were there, and I was like, sure, I have no fucking children. I got carried away with the back to school, you know? So I ran back home, right? Went straight into my husband, and I said, we've no children. You know? Sure, I have no husband. You know? I just got carried away with the whole, like, why don't you have a husband thing, you know? I must have manifested him, you know? But anyway, so I decided after that, like, I don't have children, I don't like Amy, you know, I'm respecting my unborn children, right? You know, that's why she's my friend, you know? And I said, but that is discrimination, right, against my unborn children. I'm sorry, it's discrimination against you all getting money for them. So I went straight down to the welfare office, right? And I went in and I said to her, hello, I'd like some Mickey money for my unborn children. And she said, get the fuck out of here. I was like, all right, okay. So anyways, I queued again and I went back up and I said, sorry, do you get anything for dogs? Anyways, I'm banned now from that. But yeah, so I am actually single. Right, I know, right, it's fucking obvious, isn't it? I know. I'm up here seeking validation in my underwear. But like, the thing about it is, I actually did have a breakup. I broke up with my partner in the new year. What a fucking villain I am, right? Isn't it? Oh, don't be sad, I did it. But like, the thing is, he kept saying to me over and over again, Fiona, right? He said, Fiona, you know, you'll never find anybody like me ever again. And I said to him, is that not the fucking point? Like, you know, and I said, sorry, am I missing out on something here? I don't fucking miss him at all. I was like, will you get out the door? I just want to order a Chinese and have a wank. You know? Like, you know, I'm actually recording myself so that when I go home tonight, I'll watch this back. And I'll say, you're so funny. You know? And I'll have a little wank. Just a small one, because I have to be a girl and demure. You know? But like, the thing about it is, I don't miss him, I miss the money. Right? I miss the money. Because girls, write this one down, okay? Write this one down, right? I used to charge him every time we had sex, right? Yeah, I just called it role play. I know, how loaded I am, you know? And then if I didn't want it, I'd say, let's play doctor and patient. And then I'd say, God, it's very hard to get an appointment, isn't it? But yeah, how long have we got left? 3 minutes, Jesus. So, anyways, I am middle-aged, right? Thanks. I didn't know I was middle-aged until I went to the doctor, right? And the doctor said to me, you're middle-aged. And I said to the doctor, sorry, bye. It's probably a good time to leave because I'm going to talk about tits. But like, you know, what was I talking about there? Totally lost. Yeah, so the doctor said to me, you're middle-aged. And I said, sorry, doctor, I didn't come into that diagnosis. I came in about the rash. You know? I said, it's like a chihuahua with pink eye down there, you know? And he said, well, you'll have to ring every fella that you've ever slept with. And I said, what? To tell them that I'm middle-aged? Jesus, I didn't know that was a problem, you know? But like, it is hard to be a woman, isn't it? Yeah. It is hard. Yeah, fuck off. It is hard to be a woman, isn't it? You know, you're kind of scaring me with your very poker face. You know? But like, it's hard to be a woman because we have to get everything checked, you know? Oh, she's going to talk about her vagina. You know, we have to go for a smear test, don't we? Yeah. I'm so old that my body is like the program, location, location, location. Everything has fucking moved. I went in to get a smear test done. 3 hours she was down there. I said, have you found the cervix yet? And she said, no. And I said, go past the 2 singing bushes, the house with no doors, and the 3 oval-shaped fields, and there's my cervix, you know. But like the other thing that happens to women, and I'm going to close on this, right? You're going to run fucking screaming from the building. Like the other thing that happens to women, right, as they get older, you know, is your tits kind of go down, don't they? Yeah. I'm actually scaffolded into this. I have Spanx on the level of they were surgically inserted into me to hold everything together, you know. But my tits are at the stage where they're like a Picasso. They're like, you know, like I like to say that my tits are like 2 office mates, right? That come together in my bra at the start of the day, and they typey, chatty the whole day long. And then I go home and I take off my bra, and they go, see you tomorrow. When I go out to get milk, you know, you don't put your bra on, do you? Right? I throw on my coat, my fucking tits are in my sleeves. You know? And like now they're kind of like looking like 2 flotation devices, you know? Which is handy because I like to get into the bath and drink wine and cry and fall asleep, and then I float right up to the top of the fucking bath, you know? But at this stage in my life, everything has moved around. It's all like deep diving for anybody that wants to go in here, you know? So at this point in my life, I only date scuba divers. Any scuba divers in tonight? No, there's never is. You know, because you know what scuba divers do when they go down for the deep dive is now and again they come up to let you know they're okay, and they go, you know, Tallaght, these are dirty bitches.